Participate in a conversation with once conservative, now liberal Midwest mastered prepared special education high school teacher and a self-proclaimed devil's advocate, East Coast conservative liberal, baccalaureate prepared registered nurse. These two strangers met, became instant friends, and realized their conversations are candid and epic. So join us weekly, ask us questions, and listen to these profoundly candid friends try to solve the world's problems, one discussion at a time.
Hey. Welcome to another exciting episode of The New Theory with Monet and Jared, aka TNT with MJ. I am Jared.
I'm Monet.
And together we are teaching minds
and nurturing souls.
And once again, we are honored and privileged to welcome back another previous guest of the show. We're going to call him a friend of the show now, because that's the title that you get when you come back the second time and repeat times. You know, it's just you're a friend of the show. So we want to welcome back Mr. Scott Lovitz.
Hey now.
Our friend that we met a few weeks back with Monet's son, Max. And that was a really great conversation, a very lot of perspective, a lot of insights. We very much appreciate you doing that show and then coming back to tolerate us again.
We need you on a regular basis, Scott.
Very tolerable, yes.
Your perspective is awesome.
Well, that being said, I'm just going to kind of give you a softball question to start us off and just say, hey, can you catch us up? What's been going on in your class? What have y'all been focused on lately?
For those that don't know, Scott is an educator here in Chester County School District. Mm-hmm. He is a high school teacher, and you teach.
I teach.
I don't know the name of the school this time.
Current events. The current events is my first class of the day, and then I have African American history for the next two classes. So I got a fun day, full day every day, and the news that everybody's been watching is with the Congress and the impeachment, how they're trying to hold President Trump and his supporters accountable, and they got the big vote. They were able to get a majority to hold him and call him out, but it wasn't enough to remove him or to actually indict him for that impeachment. So there are some who thought it was maybe a waste of time. Why should we spend time doing this? But I think it's real important to document for history, to go on the record, and to put the Republicans on the spot for having to say, this is the man, even though he's gone, we're going to continue to embrace him. I think it lets people know which side are you on. It sets the record straight.
Further, continuing to draw those lines.
Yeah, he got away with it. He went home. He's down in Mar-a-Lago, but the Republican Party, they are really in a civil war among themselves, and anything that you can do to kind of keep that going from our country, you gotta cleanse the toxin. There's a toxicity there, and you gotta let the people who are willing to accept that. This is a way to kind of like to mark them, to dye them, so people can see with their own eyes how far they're willing to let that man go.
Yeah.
My goodness. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jared.
Oh no, I was just going to say that to that point, even the case that the House managers or the prosecutors put forth is actually now the basis for the lawsuit or the case that is being pushed. I don't know if it's commission. Scott, you might have a little bit more information than what I can put together right now, but I think there's two separate things going on. That DC is suing. No, one of the congressmen on a personal basis is suing Trump, Giuliani, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and I think one other person involved in that, while Pelosi and Congress folks are putting together a bipartisan commission to investigate that. But it's the House manager's case that is the basis for all of that. Mm-hmm. So that being said, to your point, marked in history.
A mark that is continuing to be amplified again and again, just like you say, when the Congress holds their hearings, it takes it off the front burner. It lets it go to a place where the investigation can continue, the facts can come out, this impeachment was a political process and needed to be done to get the attention to put that seal on there while you could still do it. But it's just the beginning of the hurt for Trump. He's got not just the Congress looking into all his stuff, but he's got the rest of D.C. For the incitement.
Civil.
They're going to do him civil cases from the congressman, and then New York trouble with his business and his political contributions. And then in Georgia, he's got what he was trying to do with the telephone call. They're going to be getting him in all those places. So
We
even
need some.
if they don't get him, he's going to be so tied up and putting so much money out there, so much time. It really is like a wounded situation. He's a wounded duck.
In the same time, it's like people need to recognize worship as opposed to like political patronage. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like we've morphed away from, respecting and applauding a candidate to now just wait, Jared, you said it earlier. You said there's a line.
Radicalization?
Yes.
Idolatry?
Well, no, you said it's something. It goes from one thing to another. Hold on.
Oh, if you can convince people, is that what the Voltaire quote? Yes. Yeah, no, if you can, Raskin actually ended his case with this, closed his case with this. If you can convince people of absurdities, you can convince them to commit atrocities.
True. Yes.
The big lie that they really exposed that. They did a good job of explaining. The managers were really top shelf. Their presentation for such a rushed process, they came across as very competent. And the Mitch McConnell, he told the whole world after he voted to acquit, he said everything they said was right on. Trump was the man responsible, and they said charge him.
Look,
let the courts do it.
I said we need to stop because of the outcome of this case. They need to recognize they have to stop vilifying Hitler and Charles Manson because they didn't kill anybody. Oh, wait. No, yes, that's right. We taught our children that if you incite a violent act, you are just as responsible for that act. And for some reason, this government, this Congress has lost it. Was it the Congress? It was the Senate. Sorry.
Senate, yeah.
Senate. I'm sorry.
No, the Congress, the House was
American.
actually, well, okay. Congress is a mix of House and Senate.
Okay. I'm gonna get my books.
Sorry. No, you're right.
I
but
love
no,
it.
the House actually,
it.
if I remember correctly, the House had an overwhelming majority.
Yes.
I mean, they had a whole lot more
still
Republicans in the House vote for
impeachment.
I
think
impeachment.
It was 10.
They only had 10 Republicans.
Well, that was still more than
House.
what they had.
In the House.
Yeah, they had 0 last time. So to get bipartisanship
My
in the
bad.
House.
Yeah, you're right.
I thought the same thing that you did. I thought that it seemed like it was a much bigger deal, but when you think about it, the districts are really cookie carved to particular constituents. So those are the most political districts are the ones from the Congress. In the Senate, you're supposed to have representing the whole state more blends of different types of perspectives. So the fact that they got 7 senators is still a huge number. It's not supposed to
as
be
opposed to
impeach.
yeah.
It's a real stain. And then all the ones who are just doing it for obvious political reasons, we'll see if people still play that game.
Well, so then my question is, if he gets prosecuted on these civil suits and all these other suits that's going, does he lose his presidential rights that he's like his detail, his money?
If he gets convicted and sentenced to prison, I think he'll lose that stuff. But short of that, unless Biden does something to tweak the rules, he's entitled to have his money for an office. He still has to raise money for his own library. If anybody, at this point is interested in doing it, they love a guy.
How many books would it have?
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking his tweet library, the whole thing. That didn't the Daily Show already do that? Don't we already have a Trump library of sorts?
A virtual one, right? I saw that.
It's like 5 books or something. Like it's ridiculous.
The other guy who passed away, Rush Limbaugh, just passed away. Oh my goodness. He's been, ringing in my ears for 20 years. I've been hearing his.
Over 20 years.
Yeah, horrible.
Over 20.
And then the other guy, Bob Dole, now is on his.
Oh yeah, he's on his last leg. Oh, I don't mean. Sorry, Mako, but don't mean to make light of it. But yeah,
Bob Dole was a Republican.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
ran
That
for
was
president against Clinton in '96.
yes, but he was a moderate Republican.
He was a moderate Republican who stayed loyal to Republicans over the country. He was still out there tooting Trump's horn until very recently. So he stayed loyal, just like Newt Gingrich. That something changed in the '90s where their party became, like you said, it's idolatry. It's idolatry.
It's disgusting. We have lost our. I mean, look, I'm not saying that Cruz should stay in Texas. I'm just saying he should be handing out like, heaters, or I mean, like, charcoal to help people's grills stay warm. He should be putting himself in a position where he's close to the people and he's experiencing what they're experiencing and fighting for them, not getting on a plane to go to Cancun.
which
Not
there's
all
just
of us
so much
can do
irony
that.
to that to begin with.
Like
Just
Mexico. Let's start with Mexico. Like he straight went to Mexico.
He's got the cultural heritage there. Rafael Ted Cruz. He's all right.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Ted
I
Cruz.
can't.
From Texas went to
Oh my
Mexico.
gosh.
Like you running away from your own country to Mexico. Not that Mexico, and we're not by any means, we're not saying Mexico's bad. Sorry, Jared. But Mexico is not bad. But like, yo, just saying, like, I don't. And I used to live in Mexico. I used to live in Texas for 3
It
years.
has nothing. It's nothing to do with that. Just like the whole irony of his stance against Mexican immigration, of all places.
It's cold. We gotta go. Florida is 80 degrees right now. Like
Come
you
on,
could have
man.
went to
Could have gone to
Florida.
Key West, dude.
Exactly. Like
Galveston, I don't know.
right. Like
Right?
you could have gone
Oh,
somewhere.
Sal Padre. I don't know, man.
It's called bad optics. He's gonna regret it.
Oh my gosh.
He was already
We
on
hope-
thin ice with
Look,
Holmes.
everybody from Missouri, Arkansas.
With no pun intended. I'm sorry, Scott. That's why he left in the first place. I'm so bad.
These are things that we as Americans, like, we need to bring values. Jared and I were speaking earlier, Scott, and it's like I feel like they're stealing from us the value system that they implemented, that they gave us as children, not just from home, not the values we learned from home, but the respect for the American government. I mean, my kids laugh at all of the national songs and nationalism that has been instilled in me with all. Like, he's like, God bless America. Mom, where'd that come from? I'm like, I don't know. I've been singing it since I was like 4 years old.
Mhm.
So then you teach us that, if you respect the country. So what did they do with Koresh? Who was the guy in Texas that they killed?
Yeah,
because
David Koresh.
Yeah,
in
David
Waco.
Koresh.
Mhm.
He was like, you're like, no, you have to live by our laws. You have to live a part of our system. You can't take you and this group of people live in this compound and not be a part of the American system. You got to pay the electric bill. You got to pay all your utilities, because that's being a part of, the American way. And Koresh was like, no, I'm doing my own thing. This is our own life. Leave us alone. We've got weapons to protect ourselves. Oh, you got weapons? Oh, no, we're going to kill you.
When the
These
ATF shows up.
people marched up on the Capitol building, a building that we were all taught to respect, love. I mean, going all the way back to the Civil War, the Southerners never even did that. They never even took the rebel flag into any of the state's buildings, but they were allowed to do it now. And these people aren't dead.
And go home in peace.
And went home in peace.
Remember this day.
Remember this very special people. We love you.
We love you.
Hmm.
It's like you're spitting on the system that you told us to respect. You're telling us everything from singing the Star Spangled Banner, respecting the Star Spangled Banner. They smeared feces on the walls.
They actually showed the video of that.
They sold him out. All his people sold him out. Trump, his lawyer, they all said they should be arrested. We had nothing to do with this. We didn't want them to do it. But you know what? They did it. They were wearing his gear, and I don't know how they couldn't. Enough of them weren't willing to connect the dots. They knew the dots how to connect them. They chose for their own
Yeah,
political future.
there was the defense's closing. They gave like at least 3 different arguments to vote acquittal. Okay, fine. You don't want to agree that you don't want to agree on the merits. You want to argue the constitutionality of it. Okay, then you have every right to vote acquit. Okay, well, you agree with the constitutionality, but you don't agree with the fact that since he's out of office, he's a private citizen now, he shouldn't be convicted. Okay, you can vote acquittal on that too. And so just over and over and over, given all kinds of excuses to vote acquittal. But at the same time, this is what blew my mind. At the same time, he's like, you want to go after him in a criminal case. Go after him in a criminal court.
His own lawyer, not just
his own lawyers.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And here's the thing. This was not, to my knowledge, this was not broadcast or reported. But the main lawyer, Vanderveen, actually sued Trump and his administration last year for voter fraud. And
called Trump a crook for what he was trying to do with the ballots, with all the fraudulent lawsuits. He did 60 of them last year, and they were trying 62. To disenfranchise Pennsylvania citizens, and this guy was waving the flag, calling them out. Man, lawyers just say what you program. It didn't look like they even wrote the stuff. It looks like they were just reading from the
yeah,
writers.
Cruz and Hawley and Graham just gave that to them.
And Lee,
hey, look,
Lee in Utah was playing that game
Cruz
too.
is on record for saying to those lawyers in that meeting, you don't have to convince anybody. You don't have to convince anybody. You've already won this. So quit trying. And then gave them the playbook. In my opinion, the playbook is my opinion. But everything else, he did say on record. So like you don't have to work. You've already won. You do not have to convince 67 senators.
That's why the election in 2022 is so profound.
Crucial.
It is so crucial that look, let me tell you something. Forget being an independent. That's not going to fly right now. You have to be on the Democratic ticket. And then we as Democrats, I'm a registered Republican here in Pennsylvania. I am. It just is what it is. But I'm going to give my money to the Democrats just to prove to the Republican Party, you all have messed up tragically. You do not care about this country. You do not recognize the values that we were supposed to stand by. This man, like I said earlier, Jared, and I'm telling you now, Scott, he represents all of the 7 deadly sins. Lust, greed, you name it. Gambling, sloth, everything that sloth, everything his life is about. That's him. He's a hot mess. He's disgusting. And it's
been nice not hearing his voice every day. It's really been a change, no? Do you feel
Oh no, it's been great. I love it. I love going on the news and hearing policies and hearing debate on actual things that matter and not what did Trump say at 3 a.m. on the golden toilet.
But when they were doing the clips at the impeachment, it had been a couple weeks since I've been hearing that on a regular basis. And when you hear it, it's very jarring. It's very triggering, at least for me.
I mean, he's infected. But, can I just say something? Being
Obviously.
A medical professional, I know, right? Because I'm just saying it any damn way. You need to take a bacteria to kill a bacteria. And with that being said, his rhetoric and insanity is now fishing out some of the most beautiful hatred that we are seeing and we're now putting on display. Case in point, Oklahoma City, Texas's mayor, who just had to resign. For what? Sick are you?
It's like it's a marker. It's like a neon glow, and once you embrace it, you can see, hey, look, those people are on that side. This is what they represent. It helps us analyze and react and respond.
Yes, in a timed fashion. Get rid of that.
And I gotta say, this is where I think, in my opinion, she was ahead of her time several months ago when she was calling out segregation now, segregation now.
Oh yeah, I was pissing people off.
Oh no, it was great. But it was
Scott
a matter
missed
of
it.
it was a matter of, to your point, Scott, just like the fanatics, the radicals, they're coming out, and we can see it, and it's plain as day. And those with an empathetic nature can see them like, nah, we don't want any part to do with it. We don't have anything to do with that. You know, that's a lot of hatred. And no matter how much we try, one of us is going to get mad at it. And there's no, not necessarily needing point or any need, but I'll catch you some other time. But now I know where you stand.
I can't fix you.
And now I can like reflect on that and kind of approach you a different way when the time is right and it's appropriate and all that other good stuff. But all that to say, just like, yeah, segregation now.
Yeah.
You know?
And everybody was like, what do you mean? I love Black people. I'm half Black. I was like, I really want to segregate from the ignorant people, okay?
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
Can we? And look, so some of the white people that was getting it was like, yeah, I want to segregate with you, Monet. I'm like, yeah, because it's going to be a compound of us and let all of them stay over there. Because you can't, it's like, we can't fix this.
But we got 62%. Biden's got approval numbers that are showing that some of those people who might have voted for Trump, that their eyes are starting to, get that dust out. The scales coming off.
Yeah, that crust is coming off their eyes.
Yeah.
These conversations that we're having, it may seem it was funny because as a child and even as a young adult, maybe 5 years ago, I would have been like, let's not keep talking about it. But I realized the repetitive conversation is almost like when you teach a child how to talk, like cup, and they're like bop, dup, dup. All of a sudden they're going to go cup, yeah. So now we need to keep talking about it because I think this is when they realize this was wrong. This was not good. This is bad. And I think this now leads on to a conversation that especially you two really, really need to help us with this. That's why, Scott, not only are you a friend of the show, like, God willing, one day we'll start making money for this. You'll get a breakdown. But because your insight is very like, it still like makes me giggle inside. Like he teaches African American history. I love it. Okay. And you're from New York originally,
I'm going to stop you there. I'm just going to say, I think a lot of things that I want to think, I'm of the nature that I think that there's more that Scott wants to say or thinks that I feel that he wants to say more, but because he's the teacher of your son and there's some familiarity there in that professional capacity that there might not, he doesn't necessarily want to, I don't know.
Scott,
I don't know.
You better
but that's just me as an educator, like, we need to.
Scott, you better be because let me tell you something.
He's not as that like I'm just gonna let it.
Unfiltered. I'm unfiltered. I have nothing.
All right, cool.
You have nothing to hide. Good.
Right.
You better not, because I want to hear it all. Not that because here's the deal. This is what we need. These unadulterated conversations, and this is what I'm getting to. The video that's now gone viral online about the kid.
Here we go. I told you about this, Scott.
Mm-hmm. This speaks to all of our childhood. This speaks to all of, we kind of touched on it at the beginning of our conversation about, no, we didn't record that part. We were talking. But
this is our previous conversation.
Yeah, previous conversation about what it was like being taught and recognizing that how many people that are educated need to be re-educated. So, Jared, you posted it. What does the video say? What is it about?
Okay, so this video it's a 3-part TikTok series. I love that you can say that about TikTok, but it really is 3 TikTok videos in a row. And it's filmed from a perspective of a young Black student in AP government class. And this video is just of him, of his reactions, but you can hear everything that's going on in class. And this presumably white teacher, AP government teacher, talking about,
he's clearly white.
I I'm not making that call because I'm just saying. Presumably what? But yes, I agree with you. Anyway, he's talking about how the N-word is not racist because, hey, the N-word means ignorant. Therefore, it cannot be racist, no matter what context it was used in. That no masters or slave owners would not have whipped their slaves. And then this teacher gets into the conversation or gets into an argument with one of his female students about, because she makes the point of something to the effect of white men saying that women shouldn't be able to serve in certain roles because they're places in the kitchen, and that she could consider that hate speech. And his response was, you could consider that hate speech. And then the young student who's filming all of this is like, so just like the N-word, I can consider that hate speech for myself, but it wouldn't be hate speech for you, right? Exactly.
So at least the guy was honest in his opinions there. He laid it out. He said it's true. He's allowed to say it. Other ones, from your perspective, it doesn't matter to him. He's allowed to say it. That's horrible.
But the whole time he's like, if you want to have a real conversation, let's have a real conversation. You want to have a real conversation? Let's have a real conversation.
Well, let's start off with the fact.
Let's start off with the fact that your whole real conversation is whitewashed.
Yes.
You're trying to gaslight. You're trying to gaslight your entire class by disguising it as a real conversation
when it's
over
rhetoric.
Racial issues that you have no experience.
And even so let's acknowledge he doesn't have experience. The fact that you are still repeating miseducation because that's how you were misinformed, because you are not enlightened and you haven't educated yourselves on what is appropriate. The N-word, I remember being taught this. The N-word it was more than being considered. No, you can't say that. That's their dialogue. It's not meaning that you're an ignorant person. It is because they were black when they got here, and the complexion was so that when they said the Spanish and Portuguese forms of the word, that's what it is. Okay?
Negro.
Period. And then it was indoctrinated. It was adopted by the colonialists with their English twang and has turned into the NIGGAR or ER word that is now used as an offense today. Okay. And the reason why it's used as an offensive, because before you were born and you wake up and every day your name is Scott and Jared and Monet, and then you turn around and you're like, oh, all three of those names are offensive. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. Why? And then you do the education. Okay. And that, okay. All right. So no, we can't use those words anymore. All right. And that's how you learn. It was because it was identified as a black person, but it was then turned into a derogatory form. Okay. When they received their freedom, because it was used anytime that the white people would use it would be in a derogatory way. And that's, you're not acknowledging that as an educator. And that's what needs to be acknowledged. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
and I'm sorry. That just goes to their dialogue, man.
You're right.
The N-word is an ignorant person.
That's
so basically, you're saying every black person that you identify as the N-word is just simply an ignorant person. That's further explanation of how horrible our system, that system of, I'm sorry, go ahead. Just don't.
No, I was holding my head up because I wanted to, I've got something to say, but I wanted to make sure.
Please go ahead.
No,
because I'm just.
No, because I would have loved, here's my thing. As an educator, I would have loved for any one of those students to throw up their hand and say, so in no uncertain terms, you're an N-word.
Woo. Your lack of education, your lack of knowledge. Yep. Mm-hmm. Scott, what do you have to say to this?
It is an issue in the classroom. People would take a tremendous offense to somebody telling them something that just they inherently understand is that doesn't sound right. And then to put somebody on the spot like that and to keep it going, I'm glad that the other students in the class were willing to go with the fellow who was filming and challenge and probe and not just accept and be compliant. So and I'm glad it got a little attention. And I would think that there should be consequences. On the other hand, recorded in the classroom is very scary.
It's going to get that kid in trouble, in a sense, because
the teacher's going to get in trouble, I would think, and then the questions of academic freedom, and then re-education. Those are things that the right-wing media, they're just waiting for somebody to overplay their hand and to jump on that as an issue. So it's
I would think ethically that the onus is more on that teacher than what it is on the student, because that student only filmed himself. He only filmed himself. He didn't put any comments on where he was at. He didn't put any comments on where the school was or the teacher's name or anything else like that. All he said was AP government. That was the only identifying mark that he gave. So I would think that, if he gets in trouble, it's only in the sense of, slap on the wrist, maybe a lunch detention because you shouldn't have recorded it. And then again, you shouldn't have posted it. But
it's going to go further, Eric.
You did not identify anybody. You didn't put anybody in the spot. You didn't
That's
really
how
break
he's going to be absolved.
He should
That's
be
how
absolved.
but the reality is they're going to ban the cell phones in the classrooms now.
No, they're all
going to put
if they're not already done.
They're already banned. But I mean, it's probably going to get more strict.
What should happen to that teacher, though? Should they suffer for the...
Scott, he is one of 10 plus 100,000 teachers. I distinctly remember the reason why I got so passionate about it. I distinctly remember being in middle school and being taught virtually the same thing. Mm-hmm. Do you hear the indoctrination? Do you hear the dialogue? We want to downplay these things because it's like, I'm going to hold this sheet up and kind of like I'm the man behind the mask, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say these things like it just means ignorance. It just means this. Women, no, they shouldn't. Don't be offended. It's only because you're feeling offended. That doesn't necessarily mean it's trying to be offensive. This is the bullshit that they say and do to appease and pacify people to continue their dialogue. Arkansas wants to eradicate all that type of history, okay? They don't want to talk about slavery. They don't want to talk, because the reality is now kids are asking real questions and looking and seeing how, all of this is still playing out. Now Oklahoma's on board, get rid of it. Let's not do this. Because it's like, I can control people when I can control their information.
Exactly.
Okay?
Talk about Orwellian.
Yeah. Let's talk about, really. Scott, how do you feel as an African-American teacher, though? If a Spanish kid that just came here from El Salvador, and they're saying, hey, or Dominican Republic, saying, hey, I was taught that when I hear the N-word, it just means an ignorant person. How would you help that kid?
You gotta educate with the history. You gotta show the origins and explain like you're talking about. This is a word that means black, but what black means was perverted. It was changed in this process, and the legacy, the history of that term, it means much more than just being ignorant. It means a way to devalue, dehumanize, and to subjugate for hundreds of years. So here you got
even
teachers
now
who still have that ignorance in the classroom today, and you don't know about it until you get these flukes that come out with the cameras. So it's very helpful to see behind the curtain what's actually happening. But on the other hand, talk about Orwell, you don't want, or I don't feel comfortable with people who are observing my teaching to such an extent that they can, check off if I say something that doesn't conform to whatever the line is, there's your career. So, academic freedom and cultural sensitivity, those are they don't have to be mutually exclusive, but who's protecting, who's guarding the borders there? It's not
so that is something that I feel the same. Like, being a professional, when you're delivering your service that you're delivering, you don't want to be critiqued on every look. The objective is for you to take the pill and get it in the right spot. Do you know what I'm saying? I can understand if I'm giving you a pill, I'm giving you a pill through a needle when you're supposed to take it through your mouth. That's wrong. I mean, but people are like, oh, you didn't wait the 2 minutes. I mean, no, I always push medication in 2 minutes. Let's get that right. But especially the medication that needs to be pushed over 2 minutes. But I'm saying, like, okay, so there's certain things in nursing that just have to be on
Okay,
point.
come on.
But my point is, and I understand, like, I feel like being a parent of one of your students when you were in that virtual environment, which essentially then it was like for every kid that's in the classroom, you almost have like a big brother standing over the shoulder. Thankfully, in my light, I never felt that you were just doing your job. I felt like it was awesome, everything you did. I looked at you as like the kids do, as an educator, as someone that's leading me and enlightening me and giving me information. And that's how we became friends. But I understand, like, even with this, the homeschooling, some of the teachers are feeling like, I talked to one of my other son's teacher, and it's like, she's like, sometimes it does feel like I'm on eggshells every day, because some days I just want to be like, hey guys, cut it out. But you don't want to seem too aggressive, because some of the parents are like, don't want you yelling at my kid like that. So it's like you're walking on eggshells as a teacher in some regards already. Like, are we doing the right thing? Like, so I get where you're coming from, and I side with you with having, like, was this teacher's privacy violated by the student? And then this is going to open up a can of worms. I mean, yeah, the teacher's a freaking idiot, but at the same time, like, what about teachers like you two, who we love and respect, and who have, you have a great, like, Jared, my fear for you, my love, is because you are so, no, for real, in Arkansas, I feel like you're
I'm with you. I know where you're going to go with this.
I don't want anybody to come for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got one of those students, a couple of those students already that I know of, that we personally discussed, where their parents are definitely like, we don't want you talking about, these topics with my kids, because now they asking questions. We love Trump. And
Yeah,
you
I don't
clearly
want to follow a script. I want to be able to teach from my knowledge base. I'm not, and like Jason, you were asking, like, if I'm holding stuff back.
Jared,
Monet, no, okay. Jared, Monet,
it's okay.
no.
I've been called worse.
From observing and listening on those classes, I'm not thinking of that at all. I'm not thinking that I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble, because I'm teaching from a set of beliefs that I believe that, it's my belief. So if somebody can challenge me, I got to be open to other ideas. But yeah.
But look, you are.
But
you
here's the thing,
I've got to be able to, and so are you, Jared.
But I've got to, the line that I'm towing is, and I say that our school, the school that I teach at, is in the local news.
Yes, it is.
Over racist issues.
Yes, it is.
And so and the fact that I'm in the state of Arkansas with this, HB 1218, HB 1230 thing going on, that there's a lot. Anyway, I feel like I know where the line is, and I'm trying not to, like, abruptly cross it, or just outright, like, I want to just jump over it. Screw it, I don't care, and throw caution to the wind.
No.
So when I get those conversations, because I'm all about Black History Month. Anytime we were in the classroom, I mean, there was a day where I was supposed to go home sick, and I hate to say, I was supposed to go home sick. I stayed home. I stayed a little bit longer to do the Black History Month lesson, because I wanted to be a part of that. It's like, I want you guys to know, I want you guys to be a part of this. I want to make sure that this is done, and done the way, as shitty as it sounds, as I'd like to have it done as the way I want to have it done. And make
as an educator, you can identify,
as an educator,
Scott.
yeah, and I want to make sure that we're getting all the perspectives and everybody's contributing, and but the real truth, not real truth, but the truth is coming out. And if I'm not mistaken, that actually turned out to be a really good lesson, because that was the one with the Lift Every Voice and Sing was penned. So this day in history, that was, I think it was February 9th. Lift Every Voice and Sing was written. And then so there's a lesson about that. And so we got into the Star Spangled Banner versus Lift Every Voice and Sing. And So that was a fun lesson. So I was glad I'd be able to do that. But granted, that's just where my passion is. And like, I've let several folks know, like, this is the hill I'm dying on. I'm not going to be restricted in what I can teach. I'm not going to be restricted in what I can tell these kids. Now I understand that I need to be careful in how I present it, because I cannot present it in an indoctrinating way. But if a conversation naturally evolves, then I'm going to interject my opinion, especially if it's asked. You know, hey, Miss Middleton, what do you think? Well, in my opinion, and this is just me, I'm not telling you how to think. This is just my opinion.
Right.
This is, you know, so I'm making sure you get the information, so you decide for yourself. But this is what I think, and then we can have that, you know, a little bit more.
Well, then, Jared, the problem is you have a colleague who you know for a fact is a hot mess.
Oh yeah, I know plenty of them, but you know, I'm sure Scott does too. But I'm just throwing it out there.
What is she teaching her kids? No, for real. So then you ask yourself, like, especially when it comes to the sensitive nature of race, how are we broaching this with our colleagues? Like, do we need to have town halls? What do you think, Scott?
I teach in a school that is African American predominantly. I think the teachers who've been there, they either figure out how it needs to be, or they go and leave somewhere else. If they're not comfortable teaching those students, you know, they find out quick. I don't think.
But Scott, I'm talking about the Midwest.
Oh yeah, see, yeah, that's why.
Oh yeah, you're screwed.
I got
because here's the deal.
That's funny.
Any real national university. All right. So I remember going to the University of Pittsburgh, and I was able to sit, mind you, as an adult, as like this person here. And I was able to sit with these 20, 21, 22-year-olds, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to them, and I distinctly remember all of them. We just had like some layover. We were in clinical, and we were sitting in this room and we were waiting. They were like, sorry guys, it's gonna be like an hour. So we were sitting, and it happened to be February, and I don't know how we got on this subject, but I asked them how did they feel about African American history, and I asked them because they were so comfortable with me at this time. They were very candid. Every single one of them said they hated it. Every single one of them said that they felt like, mind you, they were all white. I was the only black. Every single one of them felt like it was being crammed down their throat. They said, and I'm like, I knew back then, I was like, this has to be different because they don't get it. But how can you, when you're the only one and you're against the machine of people that are comfortable with being around people that they only identify with, and I mean, and only at their convenience, whether it be a concert or a movie or something where it's like, okay, this is okay to be around all of these other minorities. I don't want to live around them. And I sure as hell don't want to be taught by one of them. Yeah, we had one clinical, like adjunct clinical instructor that came in and quickly left because it was not received well. You know, a lot of the kids would undermine that instructor by going and saying like, I don't think she's teaching me right. And it was just like a mutual decision at that point for that. So it's like, we've got, mind you, this is in Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah, Western Pennsylvania. Wow. So then like, how then do you, like, and this was only what, my son's 8 years old, so 8, I'm saying not 7, but 9 years ago.
2012.
Yeah.
Wow.
12, no, because I took a year off, so yeah, 2011. 2012. Wow.
So Jared, you teach multicultural students, or you have mostly white students?
Oh, okay. Oh no, very, very multicultural. Yes. In fact, right or wrong, I've made the joke from time to time, especially, there's one class where if one student is not there, I'm literally the only white guy in the room. And so, you know, there's times where I'll like make light of that, and some of them kind of giggle. They're like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "I'm just saying, guys. I'm just pointing out the obvious. I'm sorry. I'm just
treating you with
I don't mean anything by it. Just saying, you know, just pointing it out." But
it's true. Then that
but it got them engaged. It got them talking more, because now they're like, oh, okay, well, so we're the majority. So now our voice really matters, that type of thing. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Take it. Go.
It's a play on that identity, saying, okay, now not only do I know how you feel, can you imagine how I feel? I know how you feel. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that really, I think, speaks well to children, because then they can be like, oh, we have to be nice to him. We don't want him to be treated like that. Like, bro.
Oh no, my kids would treat me like that anyway, because I just I'm not gonna lie. I mean, from day one, it's all about respect and mutual respect and mutual consideration. And hey, this is how the game is played. This is how I roll in my class. You either get along or you
get out.
Yeah, exactly. I hate to be like that, but at the same time, I also I feed off my kids' energies. So they want to throw some sass my way, I'll throw some sass back. To the point of I've got to the point that I've got
respectful sass.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the best kind.
Case in point, I got one of my juniors this year. He was one of my new sophomores last year, and of course that sounds redundant, but he's new to the districts and therefore new to the class, so he's like a new sophomore. But he came in with all kinds of attitude, trying to get me angry, trying to push my buttons, trying to get me out of his class, trying to get me to kick him out of my class. And so this is before I read any of his reports, read any of his information or anything like that. And so I'm like, so I'm just throwing sarcasm back at him, to the point he's like, all right, touche, you got me.
Aww.
I can't, you got me. All right, cool. All right, we'll go. All right. What you need? Pencil? Cool. All right. And after a couple of weeks of that, he was my advocate. He's like, when somebody started sassing me in class, he's like, don't do that.
No.
Mr. Milton, he'll put you in your spot. I'm just telling you, just don't do it. I told you. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And then but this kid had such a bad rap from the get-go. And so I'm glad I got to know him first before I read anything about him. Because had I read his report first, it would have been a whole different ball game. But I got to know the kid first. Judge. Exactly. Yeah. I would have, but I'm glad to have gotten to know the kid first before reading anything on him, and then being able to see a little bit of perspective. It's like, oh, okay. So case in point, 36 pages of behavior reports.
Wow.
36 pages from the year before, from his previous school. And it was all because a lot of it was the teachers just did not want to deal with him. They didn't want to have to talk to him. They didn't want to have to deal with the situation. So they sent him to the principal's office. And that just egged him further and egged him further, egged him further.
Creating a paper trail.
And but once he got to my class and saw that he couldn't do that with my class. So he's like,
I love it.
Don't do that. I'm telling. All right, dude.
I love that.
You got to cherish those victories.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, that's one of my favorite ones right there. And he and I got such a good rapport to this day. It's awesome. So.
All right, guys.
Well, on that note, I do believe that's our time. So we want to thank Scott again for joining us. We've run a little over time than what we agreed on. So if you need to take off, you're welcome to take off. We respect it. And we'll just want to say thank you. And you have a good rest of your evening. And thank you again. Wow. And we hope to have you back soon.
Scott. Yes.
I talk to you guys. See ya. Be good.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You too. Thank you.
Bye. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Good conversation. Good conversation. Loved his input. Loved his perspective. But like I was saying, that is our time, guys. So
that is our
we
time.
thank you for we thank you for joining us for the conversation. Yes. And hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you're so inclined, and if you're a fan of the show, we would really love your financial support. So if you would consider being a member of ours, a contributing member on Patreon. We got a couple of different tiers on there. One of them is access to commercial-free stuff, because I know that regardless of how you're listening to this, be it audio or video, you're having to deal with commercials. And, you know, we're in an age of instant gratification and commercials suck. So, so if that's your bag, come join us on Patreon. And then we're also working on getting some merch. So that'll be our second tier of access to exclusive merch. So again, we'd love to have that financial support because we really want to make this a more full-time thing and put out a better product for you guys. And make this more of a full-time venture.
Maybe even more often.
And more often, absolutely. That'd be great. No, seriously, it really would.
Because then we could start pulling y'all in here.
Right.
Get a spot.
Everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got a story to tell and some perspective to give.
Please.
So on that note,
and
guys,
we need it.
If not Patreon, you can find us on any other place. You can find your podcasts pretty much anywhere except for iTunes because I never connected. And then you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. YouTube, everything else, you can find us anywhere. TNT with MJ or The New Theory with Monet and Jared or any combination thereof. Sorry, sometimes the algorithms suck as well. So, Monet, final word.
Just hoping that we focus on loving one another, connecting, finding the beauty that because forget political lines. If we look and see the goodness and kindness within all of us, then that's how we're going to connect. Because that's all we want. We want peace, contentment, and then prayers for this nation to return to the semblance of what we love about this country. Really, that's what it is. We want us to be as great as we thought we were. That's it.
Amen.
So, love you guys.